Hello. Welcome. My name is Kate McNair. I am the Teen Services Coordinating Librarian for Johnson County Library, and I am here to welcome you to the Elementia Issue 21 Reception and Readings. Elementia is more than a magazine. It will change your life. I've had the amazing privilege of working on Elementia for over a decade, and it has this knack of connecting you to the best people who pull you into their orbit. In 2023, Elementia published its 20th issue on the theme of cycles, a big milestone. Over the past 19 years, Elementia has published hundreds of teen artists and writers, planting and fostering seeds of creative belonging among teen voices. To celebrate the diligence of our past and usher in new generations of artists into a world in which their work belongs, we asked two Elementia editorial staff alumni at the precipice of their careers to return to Elementia. Thanks to the generous support of the Johnson County Library Foundation and Henderson Engineers, we are delighted to present our first Elementia chapbook, a Tet Besh, Earthbound by Elizabeth Joseph and Wingspan by Amanda Pendley, with cover art crafted by the brilliant Liliana Huey. I would like to invite our two authors up to read. First, I want to introduce Amanda Pendley. Amanda is a poet from the suburbs of Kansas City. She earned her BA in English and Creative Writing publishing track from the University of Iowa, my old school. She will earn her MFA from Sarah Lawrence College this spring and is a member of the poetry cohort. She currently works as an editorial intern for Black Lawrence Press and a managing editor for Lumina Journal. Her writing has been published in Homology Lit, Vagabond City Lit, and Ghost City Press, amongst other publications. She was nominated for the Best of the Net for her poem Afterword on Movement Song in 2020. And maybe my favorites, you can also find her in Elementia's 14, 16, 17, and the Best of Elementia. I would now like to invite Amanda Pendley to the stage to read her piece Of All the Hours for the Flowers to Fall from Wingspan.
Hello. Thank you, Kate. It's so lovely to be back and to see everyone. Without further ado, this is Of All the Hours for the Flowers to Fall. They are choosing now, a 3-minute span with witnesses, compact cascading, petal and stem on fake cherry wood. I stand in the doorframe. 2 other bodies stand at a triangle's point as we watch what decays in our middle. There is a mournful silence, sat graveside for something dying. Flowers are often buried, clutched in the hands of the leaving, or pinned to their lapel as a ticket to afterlife, annual, perennial. In meditation, I open my eyes to see a fence of people, eyes closed, spine straight, and I break the mark, seeing, wilting. My shoulders have a natural curl to them, my back like a roly-poly's. I try to become a seed. I try to become alive. My salt water breathes into the soil. I can only grow in the confines of my own history, can only self-nurture in this body nature. One day, I may have bluebonnets tying up my veins like a tourniquet, will bear fruit instead of a beating heart. There is something to be said about sweetness, about tang. It takes a while to leave your mouth. I hope I will remember my own body long enough to know where I buried it. I hope that when the flowers fall, they fill my open mouth, blooming, annual, perennial. Thank you.
Elizabeth Joseph is a Malayali writer from Kansas City. She is currently working towards her Doctor of Occupational Therapy degree from Washington University, having previously graduated with her BA in Psychological and Brain Sciences. And if that weren't enough, she's been published in Elementia issues 14, 15, 16, and The Best of Elementia. I would now like to invite Elizabeth Joseph to the stage to read her piece, Love Transmogrified, from Earthbound.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. Okay, this one's pretty short. Okay. Love Transmogrified. Mammoth undocumentable by words or iPhone camera, shared books or touches. The look in your eyes told me everything I needed to know, even when my words or creations failed. I'd bare my throat or soft underbelly, knowing that weapons were never close to your hand. That I knew to read your breaths better than your words. That empty space spoke more than my attempts to define love with small boundaries. Grief, like love or magic, makes things disappear. I love you, I lost you. You are the only person I want to tell, and I can't tell you. That's it.
If you want to read more from these two amazing Elementia alumni, please pick up a copy of their chapbook. It's a tech besh, so it flips back and forth. Thank you very much for your readings, Amanda and Elizabeth, and thank you so much for everything that you've done for Elementia. This is an amazing milestone for both of you, and we're so proud that Elementia has been a part of your journey. Now it's time to celebrate Elementia issue 21. So it's my pleasure to hand the mic over to your MCs for the evening, Riley Straight, Lillian Flood, and Emma Clement.
Hi, just tell me if I'm too quiet or too loud. So, I'd ask how everyone was doing tonight, but as I'm sure you all saw, we have fun colored drinks, fortune cookies with pieces of the magazine inside. So I think I know the answer already. Like Kate said, my name is Riley Straight, and this has been my third year on Elementia working as both an editor and designer. This has doubtlessly been my most enriching, informative extracurricular throughout high school, not to mention a passion that I've had the privilege to indulge. And of course, I've met some of the most amazing people I could have asked to meet, some of whom will be taking the microphone from me in a minute. 3 years ago, over a Zoom meeting in which we were brainstorming for themes, I unmuted myself to throw out a phrase that I believed could turn into a theme, what we left unsaid. It was added in blue text to the screen with nearly 20 other ideas. I still have that photo. Now, that phrase has proven itself and been selected, refined, and produced into the theme of the magazine you see today. While I can't speak for everyone, I can provide insight into how I personally interacted with this theme as an editor. I suggested the phrase, what we left unsaid, as an idea running tangent to the COVID-19 pandemic. While many of us didn't want to approach the topic too heavy-handed, we still wanted to honor and pay tribute to how the pandemic uniquely affected each and every one of us. In a Maslowian manner, we, as a society, stepped down from the hierarchy of needs to prioritize our health and safety. As a consequence, however, many of our relationships with those who formerly occupied our day-to-day life dwindled or disappeared entirely. When your regular life is upended and everything normal is put on the back burner, then what is there to say? Who can speak for these connections at risk of being lost to time and circumstance? And that's where Elementia steps in. When pitching this theme, I hope to give people an outlet to discuss the recent experience our world has shared, but also to process anything in their life that had since been hidden. Without further ado, and here to elaborate on how we turn this raw material into a finished product is my good friend.
Wow, thank you, Riley. Hi, my name's Lillian Flood. Ooh. And this is my second year working with Elementia, which is crazy. Time flows by so fast. I love all things literature and have had an exceptionally wonderful time meeting with peers who share this interest. So, further ado, if all editorial committee members could please rise, let's have a round of applause for our team and their continuous hard work on this issue. Thank you for your hard work. You guys are awesome, and we love and appreciate you all so much. We spent a lot of time in this room, reading through pieces, arguing a little bit, but in the end, we completed a magazine, and it's awesome. To those moving on to college or plans, we wish you the best of luck. And to the underclassmen who plan on continuing with us in the fall, we cannot wait to start on another wonderful issue, whose theme we will touch on at the end of this event. But for now, let us celebrate the Unspoken, the topic that commands the magazine pages many of you have started to flip through. Riley touched on a really wonderful aspect of how we started with this theme, and I'm going to read you the editorial statement we have about this theme today. And so if you could just flip to like your first page in the magazine, it's right there, like hard to miss. So, from the editors, welcome to Elementia, a magazine edited and designed by teenagers in the Kansas City metro area and published by Johnson County Library. Elementia takes on a new theme each year. This year's submissions were inspired by the Unspoken. From the fall of 2023 until the spring of 2024, our team looked for submissions that exemplified the unspoken presence in all of our lives. We've pored over pieces about unspoken and pressing feelings, injustices in modern society, and the power of the written word, especially when the burdens are too far to express verbally. The unspoken is often cast aside. It is easier to ignore what hurts than face turmoil head on, but our team was able to pick pieces that represent this topic's dynamic angles and relatability. Our artists and authors have explored various meanings within this theme while not shying away from the vulnerability it requires. We discovered approaches to the unspoken in nostalgia, admiration, and grief, as well as trauma, toxic relationships, and more. We are proud of the way our submitters conveyed these heavy emotions through unique prose and a variety of artistic methods. Our mission for this issue is to give young adults a platform to share their diverse and ranging perspectives and spotlight these unique stories. While the unspoken is often a difficult topic, we have created a magazine we believe best handles it with its required appreciation and care. If you're looking to submit your own writing and art, we will talk about that later, and please see the last page of our issue. So, I bet everyone wants to hear the pieces and actually see the magazines, so if I could have Emma please present our wonderful authors.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Okay, great. Okay, hello everyone. I hope you're all having a great time tonight so far. My name is Emma Clement, as Lillian and Kate said. This year I was part of the editorial and design committees, and I also had the opportunity to make most of the graphics that you saw in the invitations, social media, and like even the cupcakes, which was pretty cool. Before I worked on Elementia, I was an avid reader, which is why I am so grateful to introduce 8 wonderful writers whose work is published in this year's magazine to read their pieces today. So our first reader is Francesca Arnold, and she will be reading her piece, Infection of Idolatry. This piece is featured on page 63 toward the end of this year's magazine. Everyone, please put your hands together for Francesca Arnold.
Hello, everybody. My name is Francesca Arnold, and again, this is my piece called Infection of Idolatry. Studying my nose in the mirror, I recall, roaming for comfort. My fingers are my ailment, dismay, that you will one day let go of my hand. Not necessarily for another, though it has been so, but from a gradual loosening, my knot of insecurity, a continual, conscious awareness of myself, everything in which I am, a constant state of indecision where I must choose between you and myself. Staring at the bowl in my hands, I plead, never quite empty, never quite full. A gradual thinning of emotions, for it is too drastic to comprehend my insignificance to you. My desperate fingers cup the water from my bowl into yours, over and over and over. Yet, our paths are parallel, driving forward instead of past, back to again. Growing as flowers do, weeds suffocating one another, a flourishing of selves. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Francesca, for sharing your beautiful piece with us tonight. Next up, let's give a big round of applause for Sumlina alum reading her piece, The Doctor's Appointment.
Hello, my name is Sumlina Alum, and this is my piece, The Doctor's Appointment. My feet bounced as I waited in the dimly lit examination room. The dark curtains blocked out any hints of sunlight, the only light source being the single fluorescent lamp standing in the center of the room. The wrinkled leather chair was colored a faded brown, more like in between orange and mustard, I wasn't too sure. And the chair squeaked as I shifted my seating, creasing in the same age folds. Outside, it was raining drearily, the raindrops pittering and pattering against the roof. I wanted to go home now, but I knew I couldn't. My head had been pounding for days and felt heavy as a rock. Something was throbbing inside my head, and I could feel my forehead and the bags under my eyes tighten as I tried to sit upright. The doorknob rattled, breaking the long silence, and I saw the doctor enter, barely glancing at me as she sat on a short, spinny chair with a deflated top. The doctor tightened her sandy ponytail, pushed up her thick, dark, rounded glasses, and drew out her scratched tan clipboard. "How are you today?" she asked, her head facing the other way while she scoured through the worn drawers and pulled out a pair of off-white gloves. I replied with my instantaneous and program-responsive, "I'm fine," and ended with my signature smile, my body straight and still. The doctor paused, turning her head to the side as if she was listening carefully before swiveling abruptly. I blinked. She blinked. I frowned at her peculiar piercing stare. "I mean, my head hurts a little," I added. The doctor swiftly rose, grabbed the lamp, and shined it on my face. Surprisingly, I didn't flinch at the blinding light, but the intense heat penetrated my face. My skin screamed in agony as the individual muscles loosened and melted into mushy clumps, dropping onto the dusty floor with a satisfying splat. The weight of my face grew lighter and lighter, and I clenched my fists at the sizzling burns. "Just as I thought," the doctor remarked with a sigh. She retrieved a facial mirror from the drawers and handed it to me. I gasped and almost dropped the mirror in shock. My face was a void, filled with small, slimy tapeworms, crawling and squirming over one another. The worms jabbered and fought with each other. Their tiny voices rang in my ears. I dared not to touch the churning pot of muck, and my arms froze in horror. Like a magician, the doctor produced a pair of tweezers from the cuffs of her sleeves and delicately plucked the worms from my face. She dropped the unwanted chatterboxes on a metal plate before crushing them to their inevitable deaths. I closed my eyes and grimaced at their last cries. Plop. She must hate me. Crush. Silence. Plop. Am I good enough? Crush. Silence. Plop. No one would care if I disappeared. Crush. Silence. The doctor did not even repulse, did not even wrinkle her nose in disgust as she plucked. It was almost as if she had been cleaning worms from people's faces all her life. And so the doctor tidied my face and repeated the cycle of plop, cry, crush, silence for what seemed like an eternity. I finally opened my eyes when I no longer heard the tapeworms. The doctor handed me the mirror again, and I sighed in relief. My face was just a dark, empty hole. I raised my hand and attempted to touch the gap, grasping nothing but sheer air. Moving my head felt odd, as my head already felt light as a feather. "You should be able to rest easy tonight," the doctor said. "Those gibbering worms are long gone now, and you won't have to hear their insults anymore." I nodded. "What about my face?" I asked. "Oh, your face? Don't worry about it. In time, you'll grow a new one, a natural one this time." The doctor chuckled and grinned. It was the first time I'd seen her smile. I gazed at the mirror again, hunching over to analyze my face. It was strange to feel empty. I was so used to feeling bombarded. My head no longer felt packed and ached. The strain along my skull eased. A feeling of solace washed over me, like the peace one would receive when a cacophony subdued. No more squirming, crawling, churning. No more yaps, cries, and shrieks inside. No more fear, anger, hopelessness. A calm ocean, a quiet forest, a silent mountain filled inside me. The past no longer haunted me. Instead, I could now move forward. I was free. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sumlina. That was amazing. Next up is a piece from the first few pages of this year's magazine titled Every Day I Bleed on Paper, and it will be read by Anna Alonso.
Every day I bleed on paper. It looks prettier that way. Here I present to you my blood, crimson seeping through sheets, spelling out words that stitch themselves into sentences that become paragraphs and poems. Here I present to you my blood, the scarlet of over-exaggeration. It all felt that real to me, even when it wasn't. Here I present to you my blood, its purest form, unfiltered, unflinching. It's easier to be confident when you've given up, when you know no one will care, you know no one will understand. All your expectations turn to false gods. The pen bleeds with a force so possessive and passionate you'll be grateful for the maroon that spills out. Everything will fall into places you carved out long ago. Here I present to you my blood. The blood I lost. So I could breathe again. Thank you.
All right, thank you to Anna. For our fourth piece, we will dive into childhood and nostalgia through a poem titled Fall. Please join me in welcoming to the stage our next reader, Olivia Peters.
Hi, my name is Olivia Peters, and this is my poem, Fall. Little calloused hands climb up the grandfather clock, pink cheeks and huffy breaths of exertion. We try to pull ourselves up the very same trees that lightning struck down years ago. I don't see my dad as much as I did back then. We'd rake leaves together, and I'd balance the rake in the palm of my tiny hand, standing in the middle of the street, the cul-de-sac holding me in the palm of its own. Yellow leaves brushed my ears as they fell from my tiny tree and its plastic branches. My dad laughed when it leaned, and I ran towards it as if I could stop gravity from taking its course, as if it could freeze time and stop its fall from grace. My sister's middle name is Grace. It's been years since she and my dad have smiled at each other. Both of them have forgotten about those falls, when auburn leaves got caught in their hair and the world was little more than colors in the breeze. They mount the top of that grandfather clock and stretch their hands tall, reaching, like if they get close enough, then maybe their God could save them from the fall. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Olivia, for sharing your stunning fall imagery with us. Next, we will pivot into the world of the mind, reading her piece, If the Mind is a Palace. It's Elsie Herbst.
And I'd make myself sick if I was another person watching my thoughts. It's a blurry and slow-moving compilation of coincidences stacked on top of each other. Sticky teacups stacked on a desk, junk mail stacked on a table, clothes stacked on an unfortunate dresser, dirty plates stacked in a sink. The thing about my hoards is that every piece of clutter could have my heart in it, and it would be better for my heart to be lost in the pile than trashed. In reality, I can't see where it is until another piece of it is gone, and I divide myself smaller yet. So everything becomes a mess sooner or later. The difference between clean homes and messy ones is the habit of the owner. What makes a mess and what makes clean, though, is up to the owner's opinion. But by all my definitions, this house of mine is a clutter funk. I hung up a picture the other day of me burying my face into her back shoulder. If we're speaking metaphorically, I hung it up in my closet behind all the clothes in the view of the public. I had my arms around her waist. I could smell her hair, just plain conditioner scented. And maybe she had her hand settled around mine. No eyes. I don't like to look people right in the eyes, but I looked at it, and that same old longing trotted up to me and asked again to be fed. It has not been fed in a while. It feeds off table scraps from momentary memories that I don't keep the images of, and only the essence. By the time I realize it's been fed and filled, it will be gone, and I will have forgotten it was ever there. This house has been still lately. Sometimes it rains. I haven't seen the sunlight come in through the windows in a while. It's terrible. That was my favorite part. Living here feels like a chore more than a blessing. All these years of biology built up just to realize there isn't a point to it, and that I just have to come up with things myself. If I ever start to favor throwing in the towel, I hope that I'll be asleep when it happens. I go through my memories like faded magazine pages because all the new ones I buy get lost somewhere, under the bed, on top of some furniture, under a stack of other magazines, or thrown away by accident. Though I actually lied about that because I've been leaving all those old memories strewn about the same places. I'm in some literary limbo and have lost my senses. I wish that this all would change. I consider myself a homebody in the sense that I can't stand this old house, but can't stand leaving it. I just want my eyes to see again. But misery keeps standing in the doorways like a child, and I'm nursing an anger that won't stop crying until it wears itself out. Someone told me to start pulling apart all those stacks that sit around the house and put them in their right places. But starting that is so much more than I...
All right, thank you for sharing your writing. Staying a bit in the world of the mind, we'll next explore feelings of anxiety through our next piece, Elevator Thoughts. So please put your hands together for our next reader, Emily Natanova.
Lobby. I step onto the elevator and push for floor 12. A woman in a black dress rushes in and asks for 13. She has red hair and her perfume smells nice. We wait in silence for the doors to close and begin our ascent. Floor 2. I look down at the ragged carpeting. The woman is swiping at something on her phone. Floor 5. The elevator is creaking and I feel myself growing uneasy. I've always had an irrational anxiety in elevators. It's fine, stop freaking out. Floor 7. I catch myself braking for the elevator to crash, for the doors to glue shut, or for the ride to suddenly turn turbulent and drop hundreds of feet. Floor 8. If the elevator wouldn't open, would we become friends while we waited for maintenance? Would I get to know this rose-scented woman? Or if the elevator falls, would it feel fast or like slow motion? Would I die? Would this woman die? Am I the last person she will ever see? I think I could survive the impact if I jump right before it lands, like in that one YouTube video. Should I ask for her name in case? It's more humane that way, but it's easier to grieve when you don't know someone. The awkward silence between two strangers on an elevator would be a weird last memory. The elevator brakes abruptly. My grip tightens around the handles. Is this it? Is this the end? Should I ask this woman where she got her perfume from? It wouldn't matter, I'd be dead anyway. Fuck, I knew I should have taken the stairs. Ding. Floor 12. The doors open and I walk out, the smell of roses lingering behind me.
All right, thank you, Emily, for sharing your unfortunately very relatable poem to me personally about elevators. Next, we will move on to what may be another relatable poem for many mothers and daughters here tonight. Please help me welcome to the stage Katie Stevens, reading her piece, The Woman, the Daughter.
So this is obviously a poem I wrote about my mom. Auburn curls waltz in my eyes, flames in my earliest memories. I remember most parts fondly, matching blue eyes, struggles inherited from your mother. We struggled existing as the proper mother and daughter. We never struggled to love, simply struggled to agree on how to. A first-time mom, a first-time daughter. We were never perfect and never easy. You raised me to never be easy, but your mother raised you to be her. I am older now, so are you. I will keep getting older, you'll stop. I have to stop fighting so I can soak up our time. We grew up together, learned from each other how to be better. We are. I take your precious energy, your time, life, blood, sweat, tears, yet with everything taken, you managed to find more to give. My everything, my mother. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Katie, for reading tonight. For our final reader, we will move on to the author of a heartbreakingly beautiful short story titled Leap Year. Please help me welcome our final author to the stage to read an excerpt from their piece, Harrison Jones.
Hi, I'm Harrison Jones, and this is an excerpt from my piece, Leap Year. When the diagnosis, if you could even call it that, was given, they both got the same feeling. Like water filling your ears before you drown. The inevitable is coming, but your ears have just popped for now. There's still a chance of being saved, isn't there? I'm sorry were the first words out of James's mouth when they stepped out of the hospital room. He wouldn't have even had to say it because when James was sorry, he'd always get this look in his eyes. His eyebrows would turn down just a little, and his eyes would go just a little bit lidded. His body could say sorry before his mouth could produce the words. Edward shook his head and just hugged him. He hugged him so tight that maybe God could forgive every gay man on earth if it had really been a plague to take them out. Every second they hugged in the hospital lobby felt like begging. Please, God, not him. I have loved him so much it has made me feel holy. Please, we just had Christmas. Please, doesn't he deserve another one? His smile is the whole world, and I met him while dancing. God, if that doesn't sound like love to you, I don't know what you're looking for. Perhaps God doesn't listen to begging. 10 years they had made it. Maybe that's good for people like them, 10 years. The doctors gave James 1 month, telling him he's got an especially bad case. And he'd made it through 2. Edward wondered if that prayer in the lobby was what brought him about that extra time. But the truth be told, he never wanted extra time. He just wanted the man he loved to live. A couple weeks in, they decided to move him to the hospital permanently. It was overcrowded and loud, full of grieving people, all compiled into one place since not every hospital was willing to help a gay man. A medical professional would never admit to not viewing them as human, but if given a choice between helping out or not, many would still choose to let them die as dogs. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Harrison. Harrison's full piece is in Elementia, so if you want to read the full thing, that's where it is. And thank you to all of our amazing readers here tonight to share your equally amazing work with us. Elementia would not be the same without its diverse array of beautiful poems, stories, and essays contributed by young authors. However, writing is not the only component that goes into the final magazine that is Elementia. So if you're a member of the design committee who chose the wonderful visual art featured in this year's magazine and helped to design the final page layouts, please stand to be recognized. All right. Elementia thanks you for never giving up in what we all know is a very difficult and trying fight against Adobe InDesign. Next, to move on to the magazine's artists themselves, tonight we will hear from 2 featured artists about their work and what it means to them. First is our amazing cover artist. She's featured an impressive 4 times in this year's magazine, but tonight she'll tell us about her piece on the cover, Undine Rising. Please join me in welcoming to the stage the wonderful Kate Wren.
I made it. Okay. All right. The 19th century statue, Undine Rising from the Waters, when viewed from any angle, is one of those works that begs to be admired, surveyed, and sketched. While the angle is in striking opposition to the standard point of view, it gave me a lot to think about while rendering this piece. Nothing that hasn't been thought about before, of course, but the cliché pertaining to the evolving beauty standard for women doesn't make this phenomenon any less tragic. In copying this example of classic beauty, I willingly risked becoming intimate with the subject's likeness in order to pinpoint the source of its distinction. As I rendered this piece, I couldn't help but find beauty in the simplest of curves amidst the tiniest details, all of which came together to form her towering figure. But much like this year's theme surrounding the unsaid in art, there was much that wasn't explicitly stated in my artwork to the viewer besides statue, pretty, black and white. However, the reactions to the original piece, elicited in others, was what informed my decision to call attention to Undine Rising in the first place. One of my classmates, upon seeing the original photograph, which I was then considering as a new reference, muttered something about 18th century hip dips to me, a comment that had my mind reeling with thoughts about society's conflicting standards for what falls under the category of beautiful. It made me question whether or not the Venus de Milo would prompt a similar reaction in people, one equivalent to some kind of revulsion. It made me wonder who the modern-day Aphrodite was, and whether or not she embodied the unrealistic beauty standards currently being worshipped around the world. In order to articulate my rage and disappointment for these standards, I made this piece with every ounce of effort I had in me. My intent was to portray Undine in a way that would entice people to admire, rather than admonish, this vision I presented them with. I would like to encourage you, the audience, to consider such statues as this, whether from ancient Rome or the Nelson Atkins, with a new set of eyes, ones that consider the unsaid, rather than the superficial, and you may come to find a new appreciation for the world as it truly is. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kate, for sharing your work and your motivation behind your work with Elementia. Our second artist speaker also has several works in the magazine, so please put your hands together for the amazing artist, Adriana Cazares.
Hello, my name is Adriana Cazares, and first of all, I want to thank Elementia for allowing me this opportunity to get my artwork published in the magazine. And I have 2 art pieces. The first one is called Encased Heart, but the one I will be reading about is called the Yixing Teapot. The Yixing Teapot set is one of my favorite pieces I have created in all 4 years of high school, because not only was I able to express a new culture through this piece, but I was also able to use all my skills and abilities that I have learned throughout school and life to create my best artwork and make it original. I made this piece because I was interested in creating a type of ceramic piece that I had never tried to make before. I used different techniques, such as hand building parts of the handle and throwing the teapot and spout on the wheel. I also explored different types of glazes and underglazes, which shows the importance the colors of glaze can have on an art piece. After some time of deep thought, I decided on a blue-green underglaze, a color that represents refreshment and tranquility, which gave my art piece a tranquil yet ambitious look. I was able to show my passion for art through the details of making the dragon, the teacups, and handles. The teacups are connected to the main piece through the wording on each cup, which together create a phrase that in English translates to tea time, which is also engraved on the body of the teapot. The dragon itself gives this piece a symbolic meaning in the Chinese culture of luck and strength, but also a meaning connecting it to my accomplishment and dedication to creating this piece. I took most of my time delicately making small engravings in the form of the dragon and painting the glaze on the right spots, because one wrong movement and the glaze could cover the dragon, which is what gives the piece its meaning and originality. Even though I came across challenges such as choosing the glaze, twisting the hard, stiff wire into the handle, and messing up while creating each part of this piece, the most important thing I learned about creating art is that passion comes from the journey and the time you dedicate to making an art piece. It's the fun you have while throwing clay on a wheel and messing up but trying again and again. It's getting your hands, arms, and even clothes dirty with clay and maybe even glaze. But it's also the people or things in life that inspire you to give your piece its significance and inspire you to continue your artistic journey. And this piece to me embraces my love and passion for art, showing a side of my personality, but also showing how the support of others have allowed me to come this far in my artistic journey. Thank you.
All right, thank you to Adriana and Kate for both sharing the stories of their art with us tonight. Next, we will view a slideshow featuring the art in this year's magazine. And following Elementia's art, we will hear from our lovely keynote speaker, Adib Khorram.
truly an honor to have so much inspired art able to play an equal role to writing the caliber of which you heard tonight. I'd like to take this opportunity to have our visual artists to stand to be recognized and receive a round of applause. Sophomore year, in my school's academic English program, we read a book called Darius the Great is Not Okay. I speak for myself and my classmates when I say that, competing with 3 years' worth of books, Darius the Great stands out as one of our favorites. It was written by a phenomenal local author named Adib Khorram, who was generous enough to speak with our class over Zoom. So, you should trust me when I say that you will all have the pleasure of experiencing this year's keynote speaker, none other than the same Adib Khorram. Please help me welcome him to the stage.
Thank you all. It's an honor to be here, and I can't believe I have to follow up all the amazing art and poetry we just experienced. So we can all just leave, actually. That's fine. I actually had a really hard time thinking about what I wanted to say today. The unspoken is such a huge theme, and I've certainly spent a lot of time in my life not saying things I need to say. But then I decided I would fall back on the tried and true method of talking about myself. It's hard to think there was ever a time when I didn't... Oh, this is distracting. It's hard to think that there was ever a time when I didn't feel I could say my truth. I mean, I'm many years into a career as an author. I'm a little bit of a loudmouth. And whether it's talking about writing or talking about queerness or talking about being a child of diaspora or lately talking about book banning, I've learned to own my voice and the power to use it. But it wasn't always like that for me. I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, north of the river, for those familiar with it. I was the only Iranian in my preschool and kindergarten, unless you count my sister, which for some reason, at age 5, I never did. I was, a baby queer, though I didn't have the words for it. I was bullied. I was depressed. There were parts of myself that I didn't share with the world around me. Why? Because I didn't really know myself. But I kept growing and changing. I became a teenager, and boy, that was rough at times. My depression nearly overturned my life. Thankfully, there's therapy. Shout out to all the therapy goers in the audience. Anyone? Okay, yes, thank you. Thank you. We all know it's great. I came to understand my own queerness in a way that I struggled with. And of course, I don't know, maybe some of you are a little too young to remember this, but I was in high school when the September 11th attacks happened. That was not a super fun time to be Iranian American, or really to be any flavor of brown in America. I was isolated and I was lonely. And I left parts of myself unspoken because I was afraid of the world and that there was no place in it for me. And yet at the same time, my teenage years were a time of great connection for me, of finding friends, of writing a whole lot of Star Trek fan fiction. Is anyone else out here on AO3? Okay, thank you. I admit none of my stuff is on there, but maybe someday I'll put it up under a fake name. I also, if you couldn't tell from my demeanor, became a theater child in high school. Are there any theater kids in the audience? Yes, okay, thank you, my people. I found community, and I slowly learned to open myself up. I began to speak in whispers, in oblique references, in showing parts of myself through a foggy mirror, so that if anyone looked a little too closely, I had plausible deniability, always important. Is that telling me to get off the stage? Okay, no. Oh, that was the automated thing we were talking about. Okay, you don't have to listen to the automated message to get out. I dismiss you, not the bell. Thank you. I've always wanted to say that. I went away to college, 4 hours away from home, just outside of St. Louis, home of toasted raviolis for those of you who partake. Oh, thank you. Okay, yes. Listen, they are very delicious. They're an abomination, and they are so tasty. There's something deeply wrong about them, but they're so good. I was hours away from everyone who knew me, and suddenly my voice felt clearer. Separated from my family, I was able to connect to my Persian heritage in a way I never had before, seeking out an Iranian grocery store, cooking for myself, which was a lot bit of a disaster, listening to Iranian music, and sharing that part of myself with my classmates in a way I never had felt comfortable doing before. I found my first queer community, though fear kept my own lips sealed still. I found dreams for the future that were hard to conceptualize because at that age I still didn't know what I wanted. I still couldn't say what it was. Why? Because I didn't think I deserved a future. As many of us do, I hit my 20s. That was a fun time. I moved back home. I found a job. I found a different job. I found yet another job. And all this time, I've found myself searching for what was going to give me meaning, searching for what I really wanted to do when I grew up. I made friends and I lost friends. I came out. I learned to speak. But I wasn't careful with what I said. I hurt people, being too inflexible in myself, being too certain of my own righteousness. And what I often left unspoken were two simple words: I'm sorry. I was too proud and too stubborn to ever admit that. And yet, I kept growing. I hit my 30s, and oh my gosh, y'all, 30s are amazing. I just left mine a few weeks ago. I hit 40, thank you, no applause necessary. And oh my gosh, I already miss my 30s, but I think my 40s are gonna be amazing. Anyway, am I feeling philosophical about aging? Yes. It wasn't until I was in my 30s that Star Trek, wow, okay, a little stormy. It wasn't until I was in my 30s that, unless you count the Star Trek fan fiction, I really started writing. I found myself with a lot of time on my hands, and one can only scroll through Twitter so much before you just become filled with rage. I think it's gotten worse lately. In my 30s, I picked up writing, and I also began healing myself, healing my relationships. Again, shout out to therapy. I got maybe a little wiser. I learned that some things that felt world-ending actually weren't that world-ending. I learned that sometimes it's not just unspoken, it's unimportant. We gain context for our lives the more we live them. We let go of what's unimportant, what doesn't matter, what only hurts and doesn't heal. Letting go of what doesn't matter leaves more room for what is. And what ended up mattering to me was writing. In particular, writing books for young readers. And in particular, writing Darius the Great is Not Okay. I cannot believe you were in that Zoom. I literally almost crumbled to dust in my chair over there. That's terrifying. Putting a book out into the world, a book so close to my own heart, a book that exposed so much of my own heart, felt like a big step in speaking up, in offering up parts of myself that I had never offered to anyone before, and now suddenly offering them to everyone with an Amazon account. That said, please support your libraries or your local independent bookstore. Thank you. I was speaking in ways I never thought I could. And now here I am. As I said, I just turned 40, and I'm still learning when to speak. We're here in this beautiful library, and lately I've found myself speaking a lot about the attacks on libraries in our country, speaking in service of justice around the world, for an end to violence, for intellectual freedom. And I've also learned when not to speak, or at least I like to tell myself so. When to sit back and listen instead, because there are those who know more than me, who are more deeply affected by what's going on in the world around them, who've been in this fight, whichever fight it is we're fighting, longer than me, to acknowledge them and honor that at the end of the day, not everything is about me as much as I would like it to be. And yet still here I am. My voice isn't always the most important or the most educated, but it is mine, and I plan to keep using it to strive for a better future. Congratulations again to all of the contributors to Elementia. I see you, I hear you, and I'm eager for your voices to change the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Adib. That was wonderful. Tonight, we focused on writers, visual artists, editors, designers, and authors. But I'd like more than anything to give a hearty thank you to the true unsung heroes of this entire production, our library staff. Without them providing the structure and means for all of this, not to mention the warm and welcoming environment, none of this would be possible. Again, please help me thank our library staff.
Thank you, Riley. Quite an evening we've had with readers and artists alike. And thanks again to all our presenters, and a special thanks to Adib and my wonderful friends, Emma and Riley. We also recently found out we're all going to the same region in the United States for college. Crazy. Elementary's going to East Coast. How grateful we are to be surrounded by such creative minds. Now we take a break from our current celebration to get everyone excited about next year's issue. Our theme is humanity, and if you'd like to flip to the end of your book this time, very end, so that's also hard to miss, I will give it a proper introduction. Humanity. Across generations, distances, and cultures, our humanity connects us. Despite the seemingly infinite connection, however, one of the most fundamental parts of being human is being unique. This dichotomy is at the crux of the human experience and something we have all shared. Tell us your stories, those of your unique human experience. Share with us the joys and pains that have been a part of your humanity. Speak on your relationships, those with family, friends, significant others. When have you felt most connected to other humans? Most distant? What makes you feel close to your own humanity? Tell us about the times you felt less than human and when others convinced you that you were. Has humanity changed? Or will it? We seek expressions of your culture, traditions, and mannerisms. Share your innermost thoughts and your outermost traits. What makes you unique? What makes you human? I was not in the room when we decided this theme, but I think it is a wonderful thing to explore, especially following the years after COVID-19 and how humanity in general and society has changed. And as a high school senior, I can also say that I feel like change is present in us all, and maybe I'm being philosophical at 18, but it's fun to explore and it's fun to ponder. If you're interested by anything you've heard here today or wish to contribute your language and art to next year's magazine, submissions are open for issue 22. If you're 14 to 19 years old and interested in joining the team to help make issue 22, you can find an interest form on our website, Joko Library. We will get started in the fall. I cannot encourage participation enough, even if it's through submitting your pieces. I'm sure all staff members can tell you how worthwhile it is to work with passionate and artistic people. So while you'll take the time to admire the short stories, poetry, and various art styles that were both presented tonight and are in the pages before you, to my fellow teenagers, get inspired and get excited. You've got a couple months. Get to working, get to writing, get to creating. While I am unfortunately jetting off to college in a few short months, I will be anxiously awaiting my return to pick up a copy of this wonderful issue and applaud my peers for their interpretation of this complex and provocative theme. Next, we will hear from our library staff, who will present us with our foundation statement.
The end of an elementia reception always fills me with gratitude. Elementia would not be possible without the creativity, vulnerability of the authors and artists who have contributed to this issue. Thank you for trusting us with your work. If you have work published in this issue, please stand and be recognized one last time. Thank you to our tireless editors and designers. Every year, I wonder how we could possibly top ourselves, and this team of editors and designers pushed the limits of possibility and possibly time. They considered a record-breaking number of submissions for this issue. I might have gone dizzy just looking at them all, but they considered and approached each piece with care, humor, and creativity. Thank you for your time. I would like to thank the partners that make Elementia possible. The Johnson County Arts Council supports Elementia and creative teens in our community with the Shooting Stars Scholarship. And to Henderson Engineers for supporting Adib Khorram's appearance here tonight. You can support Elementia by donating to the Johnson County Library Foundation. On your way out, you will find envelopes for donation, and you can also go online to jocolibraryfoundation.org. Please make sure on your way out tonight that you get a copy of one of Adib's books. They are signed. They are out just to the left of the door. Thank you all for being here tonight. Elementia is more than a magazine. It's a community. So as this event ends, the library is closed, but we have a special permission to hang around for a little bit longer past closing time. You can't tell me that you all haven't wanted to be at the library after we've closed. So please, head out into this area, get yourself another cupcake, a drink, pick up a free book. Make sure that you grab a copy of issue 21 for you and one for a friend. Get a copy of our chapbook, Wingspan and Earthbound, and your mission tonight is to share these with others, to build our Elementia community. We look forward to seeing you next year at the reception for issue 22. Have a great evening.